As human beings, we see, hear, touch, taste, and smell the world, right? Sense perceptions are our most immediate form of conscious mental contact with the surrounding world. It's our ultimate source of evidence and experience. So my work's about discovering what there is to learn about perceiving by attention to non-visual senses and to the interactions and relationships among the various sense modalities. And this began with the observation that much of how we understand perception is driven to a really remarkable extent by attention to vision and visual forms of awareness. So philosophers since before Plato have been talking about what it's like to see red and that distinctive visual quality to it and whether there's any real redness out there in the world. And psychologists study visual illusions in order to understand the mechanisms and principles by which our visual system operates. Computer scientists use this to develop systems that see, and bioengineers use it to try to help people who are blind. Now this focus makes sense, right? Human beings undeniably are visual creatures. We rely on it, we care about it, and we'd really hate to lose it. But attention to just one sense is bad policy. It's poor methodology, both in philosophy and in science, if what we're after is a comprehensive and general understanding of perception across all of the senses. Just think about the massive variety in what you perceive. Think about the contrast in the look of this room and the sound of my voice, or between the taste of a really good Swiss chocolate, maybe infused with a little bit of cayenne, and the feeling of the position of your body in space, or between the smell of coffee and the feeling of pain. These are just remarkably different sensory worlds. So researchers in recent years have been turning to the other modalities in order to mine insights about the nature of perception. I first started thinking about sounds and audition and the ways in which it contrasts with vision. And others have worked on smell, bodily awareness, and taste as well. So I think this is an important new direction, and it really expands our understanding of what it is to perceive, and it's become a thriving interdisciplinary research program. But I also think it doesn't go far enough, and that we shouldn't stop there. And that's because it risks succumbing to a more insidious kind of unimodality in our theorizing. In effect, it treats the different modalities in relative isolation from each other. It presupposes that we can understand the different senses as explanatorily independent and as informationally encapsulated systems. But I've come to believe that this kind of sense-by-sense approach is deeply mistaken. One of the most fascinating results to emerge from recent psychophysical and neuroscience is that the different sensory systems interact and influence each other. Perceiving involves extensive cooperation and coordination among the sensory systems. And so theorizing about the individual modalities all on their own just fails to appreciate the respects in which what goes on with one sense depends upon and affects what goes on with the others. Now, as evidence of this, cross-modal perceptual illusions are really the most fascinating kinds of challenge. So these are cases in which stimulation of one sensory system impacts and reshapes experience that's associated with another, and in a way that leads to an illusion. So for example, ventriloquism is an auditory spatial illusion that's produced by the visible location of an apparent sound source. The McGurk effect, which some of you may have heard of, is a really awesome example involving speech, where visual information about the movements of a speaker's mouth impacts the speech sounds you seem to hear. The sound-induced flash effect involves presenting two beeps, beep beep, along with a single flash, and that leads subjects to visually experience two flashes. So this is really important because it shows that vision doesn't always win. And the examples just multiply from there. Unlike synesthesia, these aren't just quirks of processing. They're widespread, and they result from principled perceptual organizing strategies that are intelligible as adaptive and as advantageous. In fact, the leading hypothesis is that they enhance the overall reliability of perception and they improve its accuracy. So what does all this mean for how we understand perception? Well, it means not even vision itself can be understood or even characterized entirely in isolation from the other senses. So a visual snapshot is already itself a sort of rich, multimodal sculpture that's infused with information drawn from the other sensory systems. So taking vision as a representative paradigm for theorizing about perception isn't just incomplete, but it encourages us to think that we can understand perception and the perceptual modalities as independent, autonomous modes of awareness and domains for scientific and philosophical inquiry. Now, on the positive side, if, like me, you think that there's a common multimodal lexicon, a kind of common code that's shared across the senses that enables us to perceive the world around us as a complex but unified whole, then it's in grasping these multiple sensory perspectives as perspective on a common source that the world, a single, unified, integrated, but complex world, becomes available to us as a subject for our attention, for our action, and for our beliefs. And if that's right, then perceiving is a richly or deeply multisensory activity. And so thinking beyond vision reveals important truths about our own sense of our place in the world. Thank you.